Okay, welcome to Major Applications Planning Committee. Can I do apologies for absence first, please?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Edwards with Councillor Armid-Willan substituting, and from Councillor Radia with Councillor Brightman substituting.
Good, thank you very much. Any declarations of interest? There's only 2 items left on the agenda, so that will be difficult. Right, I've got in Agenda A, I have got the minutes of the meeting 19th of June. Can I take those an accurate record? Yeah, thank you. Item 6 was withdrawn by the Head of Planning earlier this week, so we're just doing the 2 remaining items. They're both in Part 1. There are no petition items, so we'll do that first. I'll take Agenda B at the end. I think is the easiest way to do that tonight. Item 7 is returning to us following a deferral at our last meeting when we asked Highways to look at was it possible to use an alternative way into this site. Their considered opinion takes up the first 2 pages of this agenda and basically says it isn't. Has anyone got any others? The officers do have a presentation ready, but obviously though all of us who were here last time have seen this one, and that was the only outstanding query from what I remember. But does anybody want A, the presentation, or B, got any other queries with this one? Oh, there is an addendum with some housekeeping in it. And the really important bit of that housekeeping is that 278 now includes realignment of street furniture, which was an issue that the Highways officers spotted when looking at the junction as a whole. Hold fire 2 secs. I just want to get a steer from members. Are we? Do you want us to run through it again, or are you comfortable where we are?
I think thank you, Jim. I think we're comfortable where we are with it. We had a good look at it last time, but we still think it's better to use the service road. I mean, Councillor Edwards made the points last time, and so did I. That is a very, very busy junction. We appreciate the fact that from time to time there's going to be a backup of traffic anyway. I think we know that, all of us, because we're all pretty familiar with it, I should imagine. But we still think it's better to use the service road as an out, because once you go up the service road, you can turn left or right out of there. It doesn't exclusively belong to the houses that are already there. It's a service road.
I'll ask the Highways officer to come in.
Yes, thank you, Chair, if I may. I do see the Councillor's point. However, there are certain issues, and I think I've tried to itemise the reasons why the option wouldn't be ideal, given that the residential amenity would be affected, potential emergency access would be thwarted as well. So there's a raft of reasons that we would feel that it wouldn't be an ideal situation. It is it's a very narrow road, and it would put all the pressure onto that particular location, and also displace any movements further down into Falling Lane. I appreciate the point that there is concern with regards to the intensity of use. However, as mentioned at the last committee, there is a predicted low vehicular trip generation expected from this. It will be well under 10, spread out over the peak hour. Now, when you compare this to the original petrol station use, it really pales into insignificance in comparison. So certainly I've looked at the whole junction holistically. The accident record is very good. Effectively, there haven't been any personal injury accidents for the past 5 years. So there's no real alert in safety terms with regard to activity and any congestion generated by the proposal. And it has been itemised on the first 2 pages of the revised report. So, thank you.
In addition, Rich has gone further in looking at a different option once that one was found to be unviable, and that was left turn only. But again, that wasn't deemed to be an appropriate solution.
Okay, yes, sir.
Could I just say a couple of things about this? Almost immediately opposite that, there's the entrance to the car park behind the library, and across the road there is a cross-hatching to allow for vehicles coming down Falling Lane, either turning right from traffic heading north or left, to be able to cross into that line of queuing traffic. So you've got quite a lot going on there. You've got and you have a queue back from that. Now, from that service road, I take what you say, they're going to be the potential of 30 vehicles, but you yourself say that it's a very low output. If you're having them coming out, at the moment there are two. There used to be an exit and entrance on that. So there were two crossovers. Now there's only going to be one. So you're not taking 30 vehicles that are all going to be going along in the same 5 minutes. It's low traffic generation, but they're going to come out at a point further along Falling Lane that will be behind the normal queuing range of traffic at that junction. I accept that they're a busy time, and I think that that's a lot safer for right turning traffic. At that High Street junction, if you're coming south from Uxbridge, there are 2 lanes turning left, and I can tell you that there's some pretty fast, cars shooting round that corner almost immediately into that traffic. And that is the thing that concerns me. If you've had a car sales place, which is what it has been, then the movement of cars is much, much less anyway at the present time, and it's usually people who are used to moving cars, and they're not residents of all ages and experience of driving. So you're going to have different kind of drivers, and that's the thing that concerns me. It's so close to 2 lanes of left-turning traffic. It's opposite a keep clear sign, and how are people going to get across that and into that when there are other traffic potentially turning right? There's an awful lot going on. If it was just one of those things, wouldn't be quite so bad. And I don't, although thank you for the report and it's very thorough, I don't really see that point addressed. Thank you.
Chair, if I can add one point, which I should have added earlier, with regards to dynamic assignment, with the low predicted figure of vehicles coming out, not all will be turning onto the junction. There will be a proportionality with regards to people going the other way. So that should lessen the impacts as well, because I appreciate the councillor's view, but the assumption is that all the 8 or 9 vehicles would go onto the junction itself. Potentially there will be a modal split, which is difficult to predict because in reality people make their own choices. But so that the point I'm making is that should lessen impacts onto the junction in any event with that spread in both directions.
Ahmed Walala.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I completely agree with Councillor Duncan. It's in my ward. It's a very busy junction. So on your right-hand side is a library, and behind the library is a car park, and the entrance to the car park. On left-hand side, right after the very busy junction, you are going into this site. Not only the cars coming from Cowley Road, coming from all the way from the High Street, turning left into the side, the cars will be coming all the way from Parkview and Falling Lane and turning right into the site. It will be a gridlock of traffic at the junction, in the High Street, not only around the junction, all the way down to the West Drayton Junction, Station Junction, because not only we are approving this site, but we have so many flats at the end of the Parkview Road, right?
They're not keep your commentary.
It's just interlinked, Mr. Chairman, because we have approved for half of a dozen development sites in around Useley High Street, on the both sides of Useley High Street. I'm just referring the pressure will come.
I think I've made my view clear.
Yeah.
If this was 300 units, the knock-ons are fine. This is 30.
I understand,
and
Mr.
10
Chairman.
vehicles. Now, 10 vehicles. We can look at this junction. We're not doing a debate on the whole of Useley.
But there is a school also behind the site, and the Gordon Road is always jam-packed in the morning and in the afternoon. And the people are walking on the footpath where the vehicles will be going into the site. And what are the safety measures? I don't see anything in the highway engineer's report. How would you safeguard the children's safety?
Hang on. Let's be clear for a second. But officers were asked to look at was there an alternative possible. The officer view, and I accept members' reservations, and they're well expressed and held, is that there isn't. I would also remind members at this point that we have to consider the application before us, not what we might like to see. Now, if the professional view is that this is a safe operation of this junction, I suspect you'll be very hard-pressed to justify a refusal reason based on the safety of the junction, particularly if the professional commentary doesn't support you. I think, so you've got reservations accepted for a moment. We're in a position where the professional advice we have from Highways says this works. I know the junction as well as anybody else, but members' reservations are noted. What you've then got to think about, the next step is, you can't this is unlike some other things we do, you can't redesign things as we go. So either is we like this as it stands, and if we don't, you then have to work up a reason that has validity and that works at appeal. Now, and the head of planning will no doubt.
There's one more important point I just wanted to put into it. So, officers did speak to the applicant after the deferral, and the applicant has their own highway engineers. They don't support the use of the slip road and want their application determined with the existing access point. So, the applicant quite simply isn't prepared to alter the plans, that they want a determination as per the submitted plans, and Councillor's highway engineer does not feel that a refusal reason could be supported. So we have explored the alternative. The deferral was useful not only in enabling us to look at alternative options, but we did make a note, and I can see Mandat's already thought what I was about to say, that there's a planter that does have some limited impacts on visibility, but even though the planter's maintained at a height that it in theory shouldn't adversely affect visibility, we think it would certainly be beneficial to remove that planter and reposition it in an alternative location. So obviously that's what's in the addendum, change to recommendation A. But my thought process is that if we can't refuse it, then the only option is to approve it, but with any additional safeguards we can think of, hence the realignment of the street furniture.
Any other views on this one? No, I think we are where we are, if I'm truthful. Can somebody take me forward then, please? Councillor Yarrow.
Thank you, Chairman. I think with the numbers being as low as it's only 30 flats and possible move under 10 cars, I suggest we adopt the officer's recommendation, so I'll move that on.
As varied by the addendum.
Yeah.
A seconder for that, please. Thank you, Councillor Chapman. All those in favour, please clearly show. 2, 3, 4. All those against, please clearly show. 3. And I get an abstention, so it goes through anyway. Okay, thank you very much. Item 8 is an out-of-borough consultation, so we're being consulted by Ealing on something that's on the very edge of our land. Amanda, can you talk us through the merits of this?
Of course, thank you, Chair. This is an out-of-borough consultation, so the application site is highlighted in red, and our borough boundary runs along here. So the application site is wholly within the London Borough of Ealing. The applicants, or the existing premises, is known as the SKLPC, so it's a small community, a community facility adjoining the eastern boundary of the borough, with the eastern side of the site on the A4180 and the A40 running along the northern boundary. The site is wholly located within the Greenbelt, The proposal is for a large community sports building on the site and represents inappropriate development without the justification of very special circumstances in the Greenbelt. They are increasing the floor space quite substantially and that it's deemed to be inappropriate by virtue of its harm and citing. There are lots of other issues associated with the intensification of the use, such as noise pollution and light pollution. Obviously, this is a Greenbelt location. Sports facilities require floodlighting in order to accommodate their use. The highways engineers also formally objected due to the impact on parking. Now, this has been an issue raised by a number of residents. There is an addendum to this item. We've had further objections raised from ward councillors and another neighbour. We are proposing to formally object to the application as an out-of-borough consultee, send our representations to Ealing for the 4 reasons set out on pages 72 and 73, predominantly related to inappropriate development within the Greenbelt and the amenity impacts on our residents and the highways impacts. Accordingly, we'd request that we ratify the report and send it through to Ealing. Thank you.
The report to me looks incredibly straightforward. Councillor Oswald?
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman. Yeah, typical Ealing, isn't it, really? This is massive.
Yes.
The only thing that I think they may get away with is the fact that they called it a sports pavilion. That is a sports ground anyway. That used to belong to Lucas CAV. I know that because I played football on that ground in the 70s. So that shows you my age, I expect. But it's, well, I don't care anyway. It is what it is. So, you know, I think that's probably how they'll get away with it. But this is massive. It's just a normal sports pavilion with, you know, half a dozen showers or something. Well, I think maybe I probably wouldn't be objecting, but this is just horrendous, isn't it? It's absolutely massive. It's almost Wembley Stadium, isn't it?
I think, Mr. Chairman, you look at the sheer scale and size in Greenbelt, I think this is totally inappropriate development, and its location next to that roundabout equals lots of... All I know is, my experience, is loads of traffic issues, so we totally agree with the sport. I will move officer's recommendation.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, just to echo all of the sentiments that have been said, and a great report as well, by the way, but a 61% increase in the size of the building with no provision of parking, additional parking. The way that they've calculated the traffic movement is not on a real world basis, so yes, it's an horrendous application, and yeah, I would happily second that.
I was hoping you were going to do that for me. All those, therefore, in favour of ratifying the officer report, please clearly indicate. That's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. That concludes agenda item A. Can I do agenda B? Now, agenda B has, I don't know what you call it. Is it B1 we call it in this game? B in a bit. So, agenda item B is the minutes of the meeting 23rd of May, which we deferred last time out. You should all have been handed. Has everybody now been handed?
Yes.
Yes. So I'm not considering the blue paper. So you can put that one away. I'm considering the white paper that you should have been given, or you've just been given by Democratic Services, and therefore can I take those as agreed? Councillor Oswald?
Thank you, Chairman. No, I can't agree these because they're still incorrect. On about the 4th page in, it says, where it says Councillor Oswald asserted that he had not received the revised plan. Well, I hadn't, and I know I sorted that out. It went straight into spam. That's why I didn't get it. But that's not the point. The point is, I made comments at that meeting. I stood up and I pointed out on the plan, which was shown there, that on that screen there, that the weighbridge had been redlined out of the application, and it should have been included. Simply because it's part of the operation, it's integral to the operation, and it was redlined out. And I made those comments, and I don't see those comments anywhere in here.
So which page am I on so that I get the right place? When I'm trying to have a look. I'm trying to read and work it at the same time. Right, so your assertion you hadn't not received the plans is in the minutes. What the other bit?
Well, the other bit, Chairman, that's not in the minutes is in my comments about the red line that was drawn around the planning application, because That's what we do, isn't it? That's how we define where it starts, where it finishes, and the size of the application. The weighbridge was red-lined out. I've still got a copy of the map on my desk.
Responsible to clarify the weighbridge was within the red line. So did you want the red line? If I read the minutes correct, it says it was clarified the weighbridge was within the red line of the site.
Not on my map.
But was that on the one you didn't have or the one you did have?
No, the one that I printed off afterwards when I found it in Span.
Ah!
Got it back out Span, printed it off, and it was red-lined out, or it wasn't included in the red line. Those were the comments I made, and that's because the comments I made going on from that chairman was that if it had been, that would have made the site probably a hectare and probably would have been called in by the Mayor for London.
Sorry, I just need the mic, so otherwise we're going to...
Yeah, shall I repeat that through the mic?
No, I got...
Well, I was the principal person who raised this objection because we took the view that the meeting was truncated early and we should have continued debating what was taking place. I was a bit surprised, and maybe I was not effective in the fact I should have forced and read out those points of refusal. Now, I go on to the second point. The reason minutes are the ultimate thing. I've been in situations where we've overruled officers and the minutes have prevented the case being lost. So it's actually, the minutes are the most important part of any planning committee in the end, because that's the point they're sanctioned. We did raise a number of points. For instance, I see here safety issues on the crossing, zebra crossing are missing, because that did come up in the debate. My strongest advice, we cannot possibly have a vote on minutes. Right, because there's legal reasons. I would say keep away from it.
I have advice to the contrary. So,
well, if you vote on minutes, you may have a scenario that you've actually created a criminal offence.
I have been given legal advice that says we can agree these minutes, people can propose amendments to these minutes, and then if there can't be general agreement, that can be voted upon. That is the strong legal advice I have been given today. And I will obviously go with the advice I've been given, because clearly I have to take advice.
What I do notice is, and we were going by the report, one of the points in the report, and it was picked up by the inspectors, was a safety inspection on that crossing. And I still think this is missing from this. Our concerns about that safety course are missing from here, and we did discuss that. Councillor Dillon brought up an instance where he said if there was an incident or a fire, what happens? And that we did, because I've been in another situation where there was approval for HDG movements in Ruislip, and because we didn't risk test where we put the lights, somebody died. I'm not making this up. I'm actually saying I really am concerned about these issues.
No. I'm just looking at the bottom of the page that we were looking at a moment ago. Members requested details on whether congestion of the crossing constitutes a risk in the event of an emergency, such as a fire. Officers confirmed when lowered the gate, named down matter of minutes, a low frequency of trains, blah, blah, there were no highway safety concerns. In addition, Network Rail has been consulted. So I would suggest that item has been referenced in the minutes. By man, they're not a verbatim of the whole thing, but it does reference it.
This actually is, in a way, is an example of the problem. I get this, 3 or 4 minutes ago. Now, what I would suggest is, and in my time this is what happened, is that there was briefings of the opposition councillors on planning matters, and what it meant was certain issues we could air and not online, and we used to actually think that as an advantage. Unfortunately, that was stopped a long time ago. And then I look at further bits. The reason I actually take the view that councillors should be involved in planning. Actually, when we have briefings with officers, we actually learn. A lot of what I've learned.
Councillor Morse, can we keep to the point?
Okay.
I'm not doing a debate on council process tonight. The only changes to these minutes from the ones that you've had for nearly a week is, in fact, on page...
Well, I haven't had these for a week. This is where we...
No, hang on. You had Agenda B. These are exactly the same as Agenda B, with the exception of the items that are in heavy type. which were the bits that officers amended earlier today. And in italics. Yeah, so it's on page 5. I've got some heavy type there. Those are the bits that were added in. Apart from that, these minutes were as given out when Agenda B was published earlier in the week. So they have been out there to be read for some time.
Right, I'm now going to have to go to the legal officer and ask a question. If we handed in recorded statements of why we're refusing, even though certain parts of that were not clearly related to some of the questions we raised, because we never got beyond the point of questions, on what basis has that been refused?
Chairman, I think if I perhaps can share with the committee the advice I gave earlier, that might assist. The purpose of minutes is to have an accurate record of the meeting. It's not a verbatim record of everything that's said and done at the meeting, because otherwise minutes would be endless. And it's not to minimise the concerns raised by councillors there. The minutes would go on forever. The case law on minutes is basically, is this a true and accurate reflection of the meeting, of how the meeting went there? I think the advice I would give is that when a court looks at minutes, it looks at the minutes, but also looks at the paperwork that went behind that. It looks at the flavour of the debate there. It's very, very rarely now for courts to get bogged down in minutiae, if I might use that phrase. What they look at is the broad picture there. Was a fair decision reached on the basis of the information before councillors? All I can say, Chairman, again, is that if any member is unhappy with the minutes that have been drafted by officers, and officers have gone back twice to try and accommodate as many of the points that were raised in the paper tabled by Councillor Morse after the meeting last time, because those items that are in italics were raised in the course of the meeting, so can be incorporated into the minutes. We feel we've gone as far as we can in terms of incorporating those concerns. If any member feels that something in the minutes was not said, or something, or there should be in addition to those minutes, it's up to members to move an amendment to that effect, and if necessary, if there's a second, for that to be put to the vote. That's the purpose of the minutes, Chairman. Thank you.
The legal advice is very clear.
No, that didn't answer the question. It was written submission. Okay, I accept. Okay, the mistake was made. Then we should have stopped the vote. I accept that. But it was a.
So it was not part of the meeting.
Yeah, I still think. But it was submitted.
Well,
now I don't understand if we've given in written why that cannot be put. All we're trying to do is record why we voted against.
No, quite simply, as the legal officers already clearly said, they represent the meeting. I have allowed the NB at the bottom that you did submit a paper. It was not submitted as part of that meeting, and if you're unhappy with the way the meeting was run, there are other processes to deal with that. But in terms of this meeting, that was not part of the meeting. Otherwise, everybody can come along afterwards and say, I was going to do this, but it didn't happen. These are a record of what happened on that night. Now, officers have checked them twice. They've made some changes. And I think is where we are. So unless someone's going to move me an amendment to these minutes, get it seconded, and I will put that to the vote. Otherwise, I'm asking to agree the minutes as presented.
Well, we're not agreeing the minutes, Chairman. So.
Are you moving an amendment?
Yes, I think so.
Mm-hmm. Would somebody like to put that amendment for me?
Well, what we can do is say we want, not all of them, but some of them, so we can discuss them.
I mean, we've got something written down, Chairman. We'd like to.
We handed it in. You've got it.
Yeah.
So you are moving. You'd like that added to the minute.
We've been forcing that.
Sorry, I'm just trying to clarify where we're going here.
Yeah,
so.
we would like that added to the minutes, Chairman. I mean, I understand, through you, I understand, Glenn, exactly what you said. We know about minutes. Sometimes minutes are just evidence that a meeting has taken place. Okay. You know, I mean, we understand that, and we understand that you can't do it verbatim because you're right. It would just be endless pages of paper, and it just picks out the decisions, basically. you know, what's been resolved and whatever. We understand that. But on an application like this, which was a major application, that's why it's on majors, it was controversial, we would like these comments included in the minutes.
Okay.
That's all. We can't change the approval, and we know that, but all we would like, Chairman, is for those comments to be incorporated in the minutes.
Do I have if you're putting that forward, Councillor Oswald, do I have a seconder for that? Thank you.
Sorry, Chairman.
Sorry to
butt in there. Can I just be clear, just for clarity, and I don't want to get bureaucratic, standing orders are, an amendment is to insert or add words. I think committee just needs to be clear about what it's being asked to insert or add or to omit.
Well, it's quite clearly our objections. It's that simple.
The change is that you are requesting that the reasons you submitted after the meeting are added to the meeting.
And you have the reasons.
I don't, but...
You've probably read them and seen them. I cannot understand why they're just not recorded as reasons why we voted against.
Right, well, I think that's clear, what you're asking to happen. The legal officer's given me the nod. So all those in favour of amending the minutes as requested in the amendment, please show.
John?
And I'm presuming I've got more than one vote here, as I'm getting a bit worried.
Chairman, it's hard to vote against it or for it. I don't know what the amendments are.
No.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. The council's made a very good point. We should hand these round so you can see them.
No, the point is, do the minutes reflect what was discussed in the meeting?
I don't know what it is.
No, the councillor is asking for a piece of paper he submitted after the meeting to be included as a part of the meeting record.
So basically it's irrelevant what the contents are.
Correct.
We're just saying, do we have it in or do we have it out?
Yeah.
We don't actually need to know what the contents of that are.
No, doesn't matter. So, I'm going to put that vote again because I think there was people not paying entire attention to me. Those in favour of the amendment proposed on my left.
Sorry, can I ask you, if it was to be included, would it make it still very...
Sorry. If it was to be included, would it still make it very, very clear that they were not... it wouldn't be listed as if it was submitted in the meeting. It would be...
Well, it would... The thing is, we are then publishing something which wasn't part of the meeting.
Exactly, yeah.
And the best advice I have is that is not a process we will start taking ourselves down. All those in favour of amending the minutes, please indicate. Councillor Morse did indicate. His colleagues didn't give me an indication. Right, okay. So I've got two. I've got two in favour of amending. All those against, in other words, against amending the minutes and taking the version that is before us, please show now. Thank you. Done. Those minutes are therefore approved and done. And 25